Thanks so much for coming. It's fantastic to everybody here meet a bunch of new people, and of course people that I know and treasure. So thank you all for coming. My story or experience of chronic pain, I thought I'd express it through a little music and also through a little bit of poetry and then just regular speech. But I just have to play this one short little song because we all live here in Santa Barbara, and I've been singing it lately just because it's so fun. So this has nothing to do with chronic pain at all. But it's just so fun because we live in Santa Barbara. So here we go, and it's especially for Sophie, who's really gonna understand it. Driving on the lawn, sleeping on the roof, drinking all the alcohol. All the kids from school will be naked in the pool, 'cause our parents are from Montecito. Cranking up the tunes till the windows break, feeding chocolate to the dog, jumping on the couch till the feathers all come out, 'cause our parents are from Montecito. I didn't write it, I just write it. That's Fountains of Wayne, but they call it Fire Island, and it's about the wealthy parents going off to Fire Island and the kids, teenagers, going crazy. So anyway, all right, here is back to my story here. Right, so here we go, in the form of kind of a story song. It all began when I was back in college, when I took off for a new kind of knowledge. The walls of the old reality began to slip when I took off on my first magic trip. And so began a sweet and sacred time when I burned off all of my old paradigms. I wandered through the sun-dappled forest rooms with my new teacher, the magic mushrooms. I wandered under storms all the way down to the coast, and I met the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. And after 4 years the decision was made. Wanted to see what I could learn in the trades. Wanted to see what I could learn and understand from working in the working world with a pair of working hands. I was a waiter and a painter and a busboy and a carpenter, a laborer, a ditch digger, and a street feeder fool. Saints and swabs were my teachers, and that working world was my school. But after 4 years, felt I'd done all that I could. I began to feel the need to do But I miss money and sex and love and ambition and my ego and all the fun stuff in this crazy world. So that's me in the corner. I'm the one reading Ram Dass. That's me down on Milpas and a yoga suit getting off. That's me down at Lucid making the scene with Jacob and Dr. Rainey getting high on ketamine. Years they come and go, and I thought things might stay the same. But last year I ran headlong into chronic pain. And oh my God, I gotta tell you, that made a huge, giant change. Yeah. Thank you. And these are for you. I brought 3 of them. So when this happened to me last year, it was just amazing, and it came vomiting out in the form of art, songs, and poetry. So there's a lot in here, but I'm just going to read just a few. And I haven't seen this for.
Are you using the mic too? I'm sorry.
What do you think?
Sure, it's not too loud.
Oh, it's too loud. I hadn't seen this for several months, and as you know, I mean, this is just so amazing. I'm walking around, I'm riding a bike, I'm walking around, I'm picking things up, I'm living a life, and I looked at this, and it was just like, oh my God, like, I went through this period where I just had no life at all, and I was in the land of chronic pain. So just a few things here, and then I'll just talk a little bit, and then we'll get Hannah up here. All right, this one is it's called Major Surgery, and it just kind of follows the from beginning to end of the chronic pain adventure. And like I said, I've got 3 of them, hard copy. Anybody wants them, and if you want me to email you one, I'll just get your email and send you the file later. So this is Chronic Pain 2. Chronic Pain 2. Surfacing through 300 milligrams of gabapentin. Greasy belly, head hurts, mouth dry. Scared to move, but I gotta pee. It takes time to summon up the courage to face the 7 steps of stabbing pain to the toilet. I can't pee. My muscles are locked up tight. It's not gonna happen. I can't pee. I try and sit on the toilet seat. Big mistake. Hot electricity ratchets up, and I still can't go. I grit my teeth. I dribble out a drop. 2. I beg the big man above for help. I put a screaming leg up on the bathtub rim like a dog perched on the toilet. I get the rest out in fits and starts. I stagger back to bed, exhausted. And the day is just beginning. And we've got Chronic Pain 4. So this is the world I was living in. Chronic Pain 4. Come here, baby. How are you? Chronic Pain 4. The shower is hell. And it's a hell that must be faced. After long, slow minutes of cowardice, I gasp my clothes off. I grab at furniture. I limp and crawl and crash into the bathroom. I clasp the towel rack. I pull upright, waving an electric red cape of pain at my screaming nerve cells, taunting them into a frenzy. Breathe, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. Turn the water on. Turn the water on. Just breathe. Get it hot. Just get it hot. Pull yourself in. I struggle up vertical on my one good leg. I turn for soap and a washcloth, and there's a moth. And it's flickering and fighting in a spider's web above the soap dish. I have not cleaned anything anywhere in weeks. And this is what happens when you cannot clean anything anywhere for weeks. There's dead insects all over my windowsill. There's my shit on the counter. The spiders move in. And now one is about to kill a helpless moth right in front of me. I pain blaze into a one-legged eruption of furious pity. You fucking asshole, leave the poor fucking moth alone. I lean forward to save the moth. The pain demons scream and bury their teeth and claws in my sciatic nerve. I lose balance, tearing apart the shower curtain loose. I hit the wall. Breathe, just breathe, just breathe. Don't fall. Inches away from my eyes, amid the wrecked shower curtain, the moth begs for life. I hate its helplessness. I hate the spider's cruelty. I can't control my leg. I crash into them both and then crumple and fall into a heap of human wreckage on the shower floor. Recovery. Escape is slow from chronic pain. Hospitals, drugs, doctors. But it does unfold like a bud under the welcome touch of sun, wind, sky, time. Little gifts like shopping, sitting, walking, without pain, begin to bloom. And the very last one in the whole collection, ice scalpel. 30,000 years ago, God got out the ice scalpel and sliced some serious surgery into this whole hot planet. You can still see the scars, raw and beautiful, just like mine. Thank you, thank you. So it's all here, my whole journey. I want you to have it. I want anybody who's in chronic pain to have it. And wow. And just my story, just a little bit, and he kind of got it, but I'm an old hippie, went to Santa Cruz in the 70s, did a lot of psychedelics, was in a cult. Yes, I was in a cult. It was very typical in the late 70s for a lot of lost college kids to get in the cult. And I got out of that. The psychedelics were fantastic and life-changing, which, clearly brings us all here to this place where the value of psychedelics is obviously being recognized. And on psychedelics, not always, there were some dull trips and bad trips and boring trips or whatever, but I did have a few trips or experiences or whatever where what I consider my ego structure or survival structure cracked. It broke open, and there was a whole entirely new way of viewing what it is to be here and be alive. And from there, I think like so many of us, I moved into personal growth and crazy cults and therapy, and I went off to India. I stayed in an ashram, all kind of stuff that we pilgrims do. What a beautiful journey that it all was. And then a year or so ago, I had no idea it was coming. I went into chronic pain, first in my arm. My arm went numb, and I tried every I tried every alternative thing in the world for my arms. I didn't want surgery. I didn't want anything Western. I had a giant resistance against that. And I did acupuncture and chiropractor and tons of yoga and God knows what else. And my arm just was gone. I couldn't ride my bike. I couldn't drive. This arm was I finally got the MRI and this was just a wreck. The two discs were just gone. That nerve was just being sat on. So I got surgery for this, and the hospital surgery, the whole thing was, it's just a huge adventure to go from being a healthy human who's never stayed in the hospital to being an incapacitated person. It was just shocking for me. And then to be in that role of a patient and being taken care of in the hospital and then healing. And I got out of the hospital and this recovered quite fast and I was thrilled. Oh my God, I got my arm back, got my life again. And then literally within weeks, this whole leg started to just go insane with sciatica. And sciatica means your major nerve, your sciatic nerve is being pressed on. And the pain is just incredible. It's like hot electric fire, that kind of pain, and it got worse and worse. And this time I had no more. I had nothing left. I had no patience. I had nothing left to try to fix this with anything. I went straight to the MRI. They MRI'd my back and they're like, "You gotta have surgery." And I had my lowest disc between S1 and L5 was severely herniated and was pressing on my sciatic nerve, spinal nerve. And then above it, my lamina, the butterfly bones that protect your spine, had developed stenosis, which is basically osteoarthritis. And the whole mess was just crashing on my sciatic nerve. So I had to go back for surgery. And while I was waiting for surgery, I was just in the most insane pain. And it was horrible. I couldn't do anything. I hated the drugs. And my choice every day was either take this gabapentin stuff, because normal stuff doesn't work. You can't take Advil or whatever. It's only nerve medicine because it's your nerve that's going crazy. And it was take this stuff and be in mild pain, but be a freaking zombie all day, just a total zombie, or not take the stuff and be in pain all day, and then take it at night to just. It was just awful. It was just I didn't feel like I was part of the planet. It was like the whole everything's going on and people are interacting and shopping and walking and having a life, and all I had was pain. And it was just so constant, and it just broke me. And that's what brings me to here. And the only thing that I seemed to be able to do that was somewhat bearable was in the morning, somehow if I got to my car, which was just absolute agony, if I got myself to my car and I got this leg up the right way on the driver's seat and I drove, the pain was manageable. And so I spent weeks just driving around. It was the only thing I could do was just drive around, and I could have some kind of manageable pain. And anyway, I just started breaking down. And the last week or two before surgery, I'd be driving and I would just start crying. And I felt like I was on psychedelics, and that's how I landed here. That's why this whole thing happened, is I literally felt like I was on psychedelics. Like I had that same experience of my heart just being incredibly wide open and my consciousness. And I was literally like, oh my God, I feel like I'm on psychedelics. My leg is killing me. I'm in incredible pain. And yet something about this pain has just cracked open my usual bullshit. My usual, I call it survival mechanism. I think other people use the word ego. But whatever it is that I've developed to navigate the world, and I love the world, but I navigated it. I was a high school teacher. I paid bills. I dealt with adults. I dealt with some actually really beautiful, lovely, nice human beings. And I dealt with some like really mean, shitty, ambitious human beings. And to deal with all of it, in my view, I feel like I developed a survival structure, a way of navigating life out there. That, what the hell? I did it. I'm retired. I have a pension. I navigated this thing that we've created successfully. But to do that, I feel like I had to create, or it got created, or whatever. But a very, survival structure, an ego structure that wasn't always pleasant, didn't always allow like love and vulnerability and really good feelings. It was just like, okay, let's go shopping. All right, let's handle this. It just didn't feel like a very loving, vulnerable, open place most of the time. And in the last week or two on chronic pain, it just felt like the chronic pain just cracked it. I just felt that psychedelic kind of just open and vulnerable, and it was kind of beautiful. It was kind of beautiful to feel that and to have access to all those emotions. And it was from that I talked to Hannah, who's a dear friend, and I just talked to her about that. I was sharing the experience, and Hannah said, well, you share that with Jacob here. So I shared it with Jacob, and he said, I think that might make an interesting kind of evening for his presentation. And so that's my presentation. And here we go.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm really grateful to receive your song. I thought that was so wonderful that you brought that. And I love the alchemy of creating art out of the paint. And I want to understand / clarify the psychedelic component of your chronic pain treatment. Did you actually seek psychedelic support, or do you just have this psychedelic like awakening towards the end of your chronic pain?
I just had psychedelic awakening. I wasn't seeking. I didn't turn to psychedelics while I was in chronic pain.
Sure.
For relief.
Yeah, and I think this is wonderful, and I talked about this a bit at my workshop, that often when we think about psychedelics, we're using that word as a noun, something tangible that we take into our hand and then into our body. But what you're describing is psychedelic as a felt experience. Yeah. And so I feel like that's an important thing to clarify, because it actually makes that awakening, I feel, more accessible to others. And the way that I would describe what I heard you say is that you deeply surrendered to the sensation that you were feeling, because there was no fight. You were exhausted in the fight. And from that place is when you experience that open-hearted, vulnerable, tender remembrance of the preciousness of your humanity. And so I feel like that's the main theme that I extracted from your share, is no matter how intense the experience, if it is possible to surrender to it, perhaps on the other side, there is more ease.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Yes. And that's profound.
It was profound. I felt like I was having a psychedelic experience. But it was chronic pain. No. And it went on for several days. And not constantly, but off and on for several days. I would just think of somebody and start crying. I would just think of Jesus and start crying. I would just think of Buddha and start crying. I would just see a duck. And the duck was everything precious in life. Everything was just so open and vulnerable. And I was, my God, I just feel like I'm deeply on psychedelics here.
That's beautiful. And I love that feeling when it is sustained, especially. It can be a really miracle state to be in. And I'm curious your perspective for others who are experiencing chronic pain. I understand that you live a very healthful lifestyle. And for as long as I've known you, you've been a very devoted yogi, connected to the arts, connected to your creativity. But what can you suggest for people in the audience who are listening online who have chronic pain approbably? What do you suggest for them to connect to within themselves, if anything, to create a little bit of inspiration in their lives?
I think the most helpful thing for me was love and support. Like, it meant the world to me when close friends of mine would come over and empty my trash. Right? Like just that small human contact. Right? It just meant everything. Like, because I was so alone in there. I was so alone in my room, and it was so hard to do stuff, and that people would come and empty the trash or go shopping for me. So I think that was the most helpful thing for me, was feeling seen and loved and supported and not so isolated. I mean, the best thing that I can offer right now, and I still think we as a culture and a society have so much more room. Like, that's kind of almost why I wanted to do this, is I keep helping us move as a society and culture and people to, like, how do we really help people in chronic pain? All right, what besides drugging the crap out of them? And I understood, they were, it just got so crazy. I would take these horrible drugs, but I didn't want to. But so the best I have to offer right now is love and support.
I feel like I have an addition to that you'll resonate with, is also the knowingness of one's healing potential. Because you obviously have made an extreme change where you were in that intense pain to now where you are seemingly in joy and pleasure and creative expression and with overflow to share with your community. And so you now know in your consciousness and in your body what the human is capable of in transformation. And so you can now plant that seed in each of us to know that potential and to hold that as a possibility for those who are experiencing the depths of the pain right now.
And that is something really good to share. The people that have helped me recover have been fantastic on every level. Like, I found a PT person that also does yoga, and that was super helpful for me, because I had some PT people that I didn't quite have that connection with. But when I found a PT person that does understand yoga, that was super helpful. And gentle yoga has been incredibly helpful in healing and recovery. And obviously nature, just sun, wind, earth, stars, and walking. And here I want to give the Western system a big thumbs up, because in the hospital, they were up, walk. Like, they really propagated that. And it was really helpful. That the doctors and nurses there were like, we got to get you moving. You got to walk, you got to move. And it was hard and it hurt, but it has really helped. So yeah, for people in chronic pain, Hannah has incredible point that recovery is, I'm just amazed. I had 2 major surgeries last year, and I'm out of pain. I lived. Even the first few months after the second surgery, I just was in a constant low level of pain, and that's even gone. It's been 6 months now. So yes, for people who are in chronic pain, that is a really good thing to know. Recovery is possible. And there's so many avenues that are open, like more traditional Western things and the open alternative kind of things too.
Yeah. I feel curious to revisit the questions that you were prompting us with, just to receive your precepts, specifically with the question of in an ideal society, how would you best suggest the treatment and the response to chronic pain?
And that's easy to answer because I thought about it a lot. In my ideal world, people in chronic pain would just be so surrounded by loving touch and support and presence, like not isolated, like they would be in a place where they could choose to be alone, like I need to be alone right now, but where touch and kindness and connection was just really available. And in my perfect world, like I can imagine like a healing space, like really sunlit rooms and the sound of water and nature everywhere. So the person that's healing, like there's big open windows and squirrels and birds and stuff like that, but it can come in and out of the healing space. It's not isolated, right? And there's just so much love and support available. It'd be physical touching and contact and just not isolation, right? Not isolation. And just lots of, you're still here. You're still in the tribe. You're still part of the tribe, right? Where I often felt in the worst of it, it's just such an isolating feeling, that the tribe is going on out there and they're all doing their thing. And I'm in here with just this pain, right? That's my life. This literally was my life. This hurts. Oh my God, this hurts so much. What if I move like this? Ow, 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 ow. No, this hurts even more. Okay, back to this. And then, okay. Oh shit, I gotta pee. And that was my life. I gotta pee. All right, how am I gonna get from here to the toilet? Okay, here we go. Okay, ow. And it was, that was what, was, it broke me down. And the gift of it was coming into that really open, vulnerable space, that it did in the end have a gift. It also, it just changed the way I see the world. Like the way I see people, my awareness of how much my parents suffered while they were passing, that just completely shifted. While I was in chronic pain, I was like, oh my God, this is what my dad went through on his way to cross over. This is what my mom went through. And this is what so many people are going through. It just completely shifted my empathy kind of meter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. And I feel like in what you describe with the ideal society, it would also be a cultural shift where people do create space in their life to offer healing presence to others. Because I do feel in our current hustle and grind mode, a lot of people have time scarcity and are not prioritizing offering healing presence to those that are hurting. And so there is just this fight for survival because of unsafety and what people need to feel safe, like their basic needs. And so there's this natural imbalance where people become isolated because of what they're experiencing. So it seems like you had that embodied shift of expanded empathy and you're able to relate with people more deeply now because of that. And I think that that's really important. And I feel curious just on a personal note, where you are at in relationship to psychedelic substances. And if you do desire more psychedelic exploration, at this point in your life.
Well, like I put in the song, I have opened up. I decided to explore ketamine recently and ketamine therapy. So that's kind of where I am right now. I obviously, an adult hippie from Santa Cruz. I'm very open to plant medicines, and some dear friends of mine recommended ketamine and were very positive about it. So I did a lot of research. I did a ton of research. all kinds of stuff, and I talked to a ton of people. And then through that, I ended up down at Lucid on Milpas, and I did a lot of talking with people there. And then they were super friendly and encouraging, and so I was leaning towards trying it. And then what kind of put me over the edge was, and this is like freaking miracle to me, my insurance covers it, which I never expected. I never ever expected my insurance to cover ketamine therapy. But when I was like, oh my God, well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try this. So that's where I am right now. I've been doing ketamine therapy at Lucid, right down there. And Lucid has they know Jacob, and there's definitely connections between this community and the community there. And it has been a really fantastic adventure, and that's kind of where I am. I think it's helping me, not with physical pain, because I'm really moving out of, though it has helped with physical pain. Like when I first started it, I still had some of the really severe pain across here, and I didn't know that ketamine was a painkiller. So the first couple of times I did it, I was like, oh, I didn't know I was going to get that, because that's not why I went. But I'm not experimenting with ketamine for physical pain. I went to heal old wounds that are still part of my ego survival structure. So that's where I am now. Anyways, I'm experimenting with ketamine therapy.
Yeah, thank you for being open about that. I feel a lot of our audience and community is familiar with Dr. Rahim, his work, Lucid. Yeah. Is there anything in particular from your recent ketamine experiences that you feel like highlighting or just speaking to briefly?
The beautiful thing, or the good thing that seems to be blooming from when I'm on ketamine, and I know it's really different for everyone. And the first time I tried it, I did way too much and it wasn't pleasant. The next time I tried it, I did way too little. It was like Goldilocks, right? And I didn't really, but now I feel like I have just the right dose for this body. And my experience now that has been valuable for me, and it seems to be carrying over into my daily life, but I don't want to make any claims, like rubber stamp. But so far, what seems to be happening is when I'm on the ketamine or in the ketamine or working, or how I put it, things that are very difficult and hard, like the death of my parents. I miss my parents every day. I love my parents. And it's kind of crazy. Like it took their death for me to see how much I love them. Like it was helping them. It was seeing my parents turn into children and being helpless and taking care of them and being with them through their entire process of dying. And then missing them now that they're gone, like has brought an entirely new kind of love for them that I didn't have while they were like healthy and running around. And so that's an example of like something that's usually, and my own death. I'm 65. Being aware of a lot of my students that die, a lot of my close friends are dead. It's just the way life goes. You go to a lot of graduations, and you go to a lot of marriages, weddings. You go to a lot of weddings, and you go to a lot of christenings, and blah blah blah. And then one day, you just always go into memorials. Like, that's just the way it goes. You're just always going to some, So my own leaving this body is a reality for me, and the ketamine, what has been kind of cool or beautiful or interesting or useful or valuable about it is things that are hard and heavy, they kind of come by, and I can see them interact with them and be part of them without freaking, like it just with a little more space around it. So I'm hoping this really sticks. Only been doing it for a month or two, but I'm hoping that I have. And I'll be getting like just more room around things, more room around the unpleasant stuff, the unpleasant feelings, the unpleasant situations. It's like a little more space. It seems to be something that's blooming out of doing ketamine and working with a therapist, because they have given me a wonderful therapist who, it's kind of like, okay, when you were on ketamine and the next time you're on, there's a person who's kind of guiding me and pushing and pulling me and kind of helping me unpack or unwrap the experiences I'm having.
Yeah, speaking to a lot of people in this context, I find that a through line in people's psychedelic usage with healing intent is that you're describing the process of creating more space around an experience, so they're no longer operating out of the reactive tendency. Usually that's rooted in judgment or fear or some energy of that is wrong, and shifting out of that to just receive what that experience is. Maybe it has a medicinal or extensive quality that's unique to each person in the way that they choose to receive that experience. But I'm glad that you're receiving that treatment, that your insurance covers it. Like, what a surprise that is, that in this lifetime you get to receive psychedelic therapy covered by your medical insurance. And also that's an encouragement for people who are curious to explore your personal options.
Right. Yeah. I'm on Medicare. We're 65, and Medicare and Medicare supplements, they're covering it. And it's like, who did? Not me.
It's a blessing.
It is a blessing. Yeah.
Greatest insurance in the world, because there's a cap. You gotta wait 65 years.
Yeah. You gotta wait. I had to wait 65 years, but I did it.
But it's capped.
Yeah, there we go. Don't die.
Well, we're going to take about the next 10 minutes to explore some questions from the audience. So if anyone has something you would like to ask Paul directly about his journey, myself or Jacob will bring you the mic so you can speak directly into it for our online audience to hear your questions too.
Oh, I came back because my story of chronic pain, I projected would be similar, because we're of the same generation, for one thing. I'm confused. The title is Surviving Chronic Pain Through Psychedelic Therapy. And you survived the chronic pain, according to your narrative, prior to the ketamine experience.
Yes.
So in other words, I'm trying to get this, I think I got it, but I want to clarify with you since you're here. And that is, what you're saying is you used that background that started at Santa Cruz of the ego disillusion and so forth to conquer that chronic pain before ketamine.
Yeah. And I didn't conquer chronic pain. I don't know, the title may be slightly misleading out when
Yeah, I'm an academic, so I'm like, then I go, it was, I just want to match things up with your narrative.
Yeah, my narrative that started all this was that chronic pain took me to a place that was absolutely like being on psychedelics. And that was the essence of my narrative. Oh, okay. And that just so surprised me, and I ended up talking to Hannah about it, and then she brought me to Jacob. But that's the crux of this, is like, wow, chronic pain took me to a place that I've been on psychedelics. And who did, right? Who did? I mean, maybe this has happened to a ton of other people. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know. But chronic pain did a very similar thing to me that psychedelics had done. Took me to a very similar place.
Well, as a absolute aggressive advocate of ketamine in a clinical situation at the right dose, I suspect you're at 125 or 150, something like that. I had ketamine in my system for 100 days in a row after a horrific bike accident. Oh, man. And the fact that it evaporates that pain you're talking about. Because I was you. Okay, I can't move. I'm propped up in a chair. I cannot get up. The bathroom's over there. Forget it. I got a walker, and I've had 6 operations due to this bike wreck. And that hour a day, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, where you're in that pod floating through space with no pain, got me through those 3 months where I could actually let my body begin to recover, even doing all the things you're doing with PT and so forth and so on. But my experience was opioids or, maybe suicide. And I'm not a suicidal first. Yeah, so I'd say my endorsement is stick with the ketamine, stick with Lucid, and you're going to find out, and not only during that experience where it's the anesthetic version of it, and the floating through space with no pain, you're going to find residuals. Everybody finds residuals. Most of them are positive. Mine are typical, meaning I'm like, I'm less anxious. I'm not as depressed. And it's a byproduct. We know what the direct product is when you inject it or you drip it or you tropy it. Yeah. You have that experience in the meantime. And then you wait there 15 minutes and have somebody take you home or walk your bike. So I encourage you to stay on it. You're ahead of the newbie on it.
I am a newbie.
And you're in a good place. And I think that your openness to having a therapist on top of the ketamine is going to serve you well. So good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm curious about the experiences that you felt when you were on psychedelics. Can you give an example of how you felt like you were on psychedelics, not be?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
So interesting.
I'm driving up to Gibraltar because that I would manage to get to the car. And my first drive was always up Gibraltar Road. It's super slow. Fit the leg like this. And driving up to Gibraltar is early in the morning. And I start thinking of Jesus, actually. I was like in so much pain. I just was like, I was in so much pain that I would just be screaming, God, Jesus, Buddha, somebody help me, Sadhguru, somebody help me. And I think that at the first time I was just going like, God, Jesus, help. And then something kind of expanded in me, like, holy, Jesus went through this, right? And that kind of opened to, oh my God, there's people everywhere. Like looking down at Santa Barbara, there's tons of people down there going, and it just was like this splitting open kind of. And then just everything just touched my heart. And that sounds so hippy-dippy, flaky-wakey, but when you're on psychedelics, my experience of psychedelics when they really worked was they were like that. Like I look at a bird and I would just be filled with love. Like the bird was filled with whatever the heck I don't know. It's just that really precious thing that we can call God or, everybody has such a different name for that beautiful essence that we get in touch with sometimes, but it just started cracking open. Like I think about a friend that started crying. I literally I'd look out the window and see the birds or the rabbits and just be in tears of a preciousness connection. I don't know. Words are pretty.
So you find awakening that gratefulness and I just feel so hard. It almost become hilarious, like scared of the awakening, but it is beautiful.
Yeah.
It does hit in that way. So it must be very painful when your people had your mind to treat those things.
It was as he knows, like it. You go to India, you go here, you fall in love. these are experiences that we have, right? Right, you fall in love. It's life-changing, right? Like, before you fall in love, you hear all these love songs. They just seem stupid. Then you fall in love, and the love songs seem like the coolest thing ever. Hey, look at, she's laughing, right? Grieving, right? These things, and then chronic pain was like that. It was like, okay, I've been in love. I've experienced grief. I've been to India. I've done psychedelics, and chronic pain was like, it's like getting on another one of those huge rides, like the big rides that we get on in these bodies in this life. And it would, and I had no freaking idea. Like, it's like, you're like going to the park and like there's Space Mountain and there's the Matterhorn, you know, there's falling in love. There's grieving, you know, there's retirement, whatever. There's all this stuff. And I didn't realize that there was a chronic pain ride. You know, it was over in Frontierland. But I don't know why they put it. But suddenly, like, you're going on a chronic pain ride. What the hell? You know, and it's like being strapped in, right? Strapped in on this ride, and it unfolded and unfolded. And if the final unfolding was that, just that beautiful space of like being so heart opened by it. Yeah.
So you ended up in a very spiritual place. My question is, in the beginning of this chronic pain journey, and your arm was hurting so much, did you use your spirituality from the ashram, etc., to deal with the pain? Did you have ways of using spirit to handle the pain?
I mean, initially, before the pain was overwhelming, I didn't. Like, before the pain was just overwhelming, I was very focused on physical healing. And so my, mental or emotional energy, I was spending a lot of time researching like this chiropractor or that acupuncturist. The side note here, the healing community, there's a lot of really fantastic, great people there, but here's another piece of advice, like, you be careful. Because I was in the healing community and I'm super vulnerable. And I would never use names, but I ran into a couple folks that I felt were exploiting people at chronic pain. And that's just another, I don't like to add that to a beautiful, positive night, but I would say that, like, a lot of, there's charlatans. The charlatans, yeah, they're after your money. And then, for me, I was in so much chronic pain, and some of these folks were telling me, I will do this, I will do that. And I was so vulnerable because I was in so much pain. But Vish, to finish the question, initially my focus was this healer, that healer, this methodology, that methodology, trying like all these different things. And then when the pain got to the overwhelming place, that's where it turned really spiritual. Like, when the pain got to a place where, like, I couldn't go to, there's no way to go to chiropractor. I couldn't go to the acupuncturist. I couldn't go, those things were just gone. All I had left was, and I just by out, God, Jesus, help. And I really did turn to, it was what I was spiritual, religious, just begging, help, please, help. Divine, whatever form you're in, please come and help me, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Check, fine.
So earlier, you brought us your artist and musician, songwriter. I'd like to know where in your story arc that evolved, and did part of it come from psychedelics, or I'm curious about that.
just sort of story of my journey, which I call majors. I didn't know, it was only afterwards then, the doctor said, well, you need to be careful. You had a major surgery. And somehow those words like just hadn't landed on me before, And I said, wow, yeah, I just had 2 major surgeries. This just came pouring out from that. And the songwriting, that goes way back to psychedelics, and that song was born, and how mind blowing it was to be 18 in 1978 and eat mushrooms, and my consciousness was I don't have 2 hands here, but it was very narrow. I had a very narrow view of what consciousness was and what was possible, and I ate a bunch of mushrooms and ran around in the forest there in Santa Cruz, and it was.
But you were in back of the room where you ramen.
Yeah, and that led me. That led me to, because I did a lot of psychedelics for about 2 or 3 years, and then I realized that I wasn't healing anything. I was still the same person. Like, I would get on psychedelics, like, I'm gonna love everyone. I'm gonna treat everybody with this openness and kindness. And I would come down off the psychedelics, and I would go right back to my selfish, egotistical, wounded bullshit. But, basically acting out from a very wounded and hurt place and not knowing that. And so trying to heal my wounds through other people and ego and ambition and stuff. So I did give up on the psychedelics for a while. That's when the cult got me. The cult seemed like the answer. And off I went to the cult. We should have a cult night here. Tell you that this isn't a cult. Tell you the cult story, because getting in and out of the cult was quite an adventure. Part two. And then from there, Ramdas, and then Kasahara, a lot of Buddhism, Kasahara, all kinds of Buddhism. And then from there, yoga into Sadhguru. I'm sure a lot of you know Sadhguru. And from Sadhguru into doing a lot of the Isha yoga practices, and that led to being at the ashram, both here and in India. So man, as the Grateful Dead said, what a long, strange trip this been. And it's great. And then chronic pain, right?
And then where does that crack happen with the psychedelics? Where it opened up for you?
Oh, then I was back in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cute. See, thank you, audience, for your questions. I have a few more rapid fire questions to close us out. My invitation is that you respond just with the first thing that comes through to you.
Okay.
So, let's see. I'm going to condense the list, shake up. My first question, are you calm, is do you believe in an afterlife?
Absolutely.
And do you think psychedelics give us some sort of access to that?
That is a fantastic question. I do believe in an afterlife. I have not personally had an experience of psychedelics giving me an experience of the afterlife. I have had experiences of dreaming, sleeping dreams, giving me an experience of the afterlife. Psychedelics, no. I have not had experience of the afterlife for psychedelics.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Is there a psychedelic or plant medicine that you haven't yet tried but you desire to? What is it?
I haven't tried ayahuasca yet. And I think when the desire comes,
when the invitation comes.
When the invitation comes, yeah. I will, in the last few years, I did San Pedro, there's different names for it. Mescaline, yeah. I've done that. And I've gone back to mushrooms, or I've gone back to using those sometimes. And now ketamine, and I sort of feel ayahuasca out here floating around, like
she's flirting with you.
Yes, but they're flirting with me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I understand that. If you could sit in a psychedelic ceremony with anyone, dead or alive, utilizing any plant medicine or substance, who would be the choose, and what would you choose to take with them?
I would love you to do mushrooms with cheeses. Yeah, if it's song, when you're that song, mushrooms and cheese, I would. Yes, absolutely. Mushrooms, and then do I take something with?
If you want.
To them? I'm not quite. Where am I taking something?
There's also water.
Yeah. Are you unclearly the location?
No. I missed it. What did I? Oh, I missed the taking part. Oh, what do I take? The take mushrooms. Yeah,
Taking the
mushrooms and cheeses.
was JC. See that for you. Yeah. My final question is, how can you synthesize in the shortest way, maybe through one word or a short phrase, the nature of consciousness?
Love.
Oh. Thank you, Cole, for sharing your soul ring this song right there.